if Quinnen's unable to go, how difficult is that to overcome?
Yeah, he's impossible to replace, just because he's playing at such an elite level. But we do have tremendous depth in that group. So, we're hoping he gets back by Sunday. But if he doesn't, we've got guys that obviously have played a lot of football. It's another benefit to our rotation that we have on our defensive line, that a lot of guys play, a lot of guys have game experience. So we'll roll either way.
Over the last month, the run defense, the numbers haven't been probably what you're looking for about the last 4 games. 3 games over 100, 1 a little below 100. What's going on there? What needs to change? Yeah,
there have been a couple explosives that got the numbers out of whack, and the tackling hasn't been up to par, in my opinion. And the defense would tell you the same thing. So we just got to continue to work on that, the fundamentals of tackling, tracking, wrapping, taking the extra step, and then getting population to the ball. We haven't done that as consistently as we would like, especially these last 4 games.
I know the cliche is about turnovers come in bunches and stuff like that, and obviously you guys had a bunch earlier and now not so much the last few weeks. Is there anything that you can do though to try to tilt that in your favor?
Right, I thought we did today and yesterday. We really got back to. We were talking about it. We were coaching it. I don't know if we were necessarily, at least for myself, I probably wasn't emphasizing it well enough, so we really shined a light on it this week, starting yesterday, and being very deliberate in the shots we take in practice, and being very deliberate at running to the ball for the tips and overthrows and all the things that can happen to that. So we really got back to our roots this week. So hopefully that'll manifest itself in some turnovers this Sunday.
What have the Lions been doing over the last month that's been so impressive on offense?
A little bit of everything. They're that rare team that has this ability to be so explosive down the field, from the receivers that they have and the quarterback that can facilitate all that. But at the same time, they are extremely physical up front. I would say probably the best O-line that we faced to this point in time, and so it is. They challenge you at every single level. The defensive line, linebackers, DBs, we all have tremendous challenges this week.
What are you seeing in Goff? He hasn't turned the ball over for a while, and what's your opinion about the way he's been playing?
Yeah, he's running this offense at an extremely high level. He understands immediately, based upon the defense that you're playing, where to take the ball. He looks very accurate. His timing is on. He's got very good relationships, I think, with all of these receivers. And I think it's a scheme that's very conducive to the player that he is. He's a guy that can handle a lot, and extremely bright. And he's obviously got a lot of experience in this league, so they put a lot on him in that way. And he does a great job.
Is he a player that's a little underrated? Because he had a lot of success early with the Rams. And
right.
Kind of cast him aside to go get Matt, and now he's kind of had a little bit of a rival here in Detroit.
Yeah, I've always been extremely. He's a guy like. Back from my time at UCLA, I coached against him as the DC, and he's a guy that just consistently would, he'd beat you late in games when it mattered most, So I've always just been extremely impressed about that side of his game. He is, I think he is extremely underrated. I think he's a guy that, he's a top-tier quarterback. He's finally getting a chance to really prove that now, and we got to be right on Sunday.
What have you seen from Amon-Ra St. Brown and that receiving group?
It's a big part of the reason that Goff has had as much success as he had. He's a guy that they feature him in the right way. They know exactly what his strengths are. He's good at separating. He's good at the choice routes, the option routes. He's good at the short, intermediate stuff. So he's a big problem when it comes to that. And obviously him and Goff have a great relationship. The fact that he's gotten so many targets, so many touches, so many catches. Now you're adding the element of these other guys, Chark and Williams, who can they can provide the space necessary to work the underneath stuff, because you got 2 guys that can take the top off your defense. So it's going to be a great game to see exactly where we stand.
Jeff, what do you? I know you're not coaching against their defense, but with regard to your DC counterpart, Aaron Glenn, do you have any kind of relationship with him from back in the day, or what do you know of him? And if not, what do you see in his defense?
I don't know, and honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't study it. I don't study his stuff as much as probably our offense does, but just from a league-wide perspective, just a tremendous reputation as being a great coach, teacher, motivator, connector with human beings. So he does a great job for those guys. And just from a statistical standpoint, it looks like they've gotten better every week. So that's all you can ask.
I realize you never want to see your own quarterback take big hits, but when Mike absorbed what he did Sunday and came back from it, does that impress your defensive players, and you think maybe inspires them to compete for him at a higher level, or does that have any impact, you think?
I think at quarterback or at really any position, when you see a guy with that sort of toughness and resolve and commitment to the team, it's a powerful thing. I played with Jeff Garcia back in the day, and although on paper it wouldn't look like he had those great quarterback attributes, he's a guy that we just rallied behind because of that. He showed and demonstrated so much toughness on Sundays.
With Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, he's established himself and has a pretty good reputation of being very creative.
Yep.
What have you seen from film in terms of what he does?
I think that's exactly it. I think he's one of those rare offensive coordinators that has a deep understanding of defense. You can see it in the concepts and how they challenge defensive principles and things that we do that maybe you haven't seen before. He's getting outside the box a little bit. I think the tendency is a lot of times, what's beat that defense in the past, let's replicate it, where he'll go a step further and that reveals their rules, let's beat it in a different way, Yeah, a lot of creativity, a lot of volume, and a lot of stuff that just is unique and hasn't been shown on tape to beat certain defenses.
Are you going to have Sauce or Reed shadow Sewell?
Yeah, it's a reflection and demonstration of this coach and the head coach and his mindset. It just obviously has love and regard for the big guys, and I think whenever you get those guys touches, it just fires them up, So we got to be aware of everybody, and that's a rare challenge from a defensive perspective. Because every level, the running backs are having tremendous success. The O-line is obviously a real problem. The receivers, it's just, and a quarterback that's facilitating all of it. So.
And speaking of Reed, he gets a bit overshadowed because Sauce has been, such a revelation. Obviously, he's the first pick. Can you speak to the level he's played at, and has it been better than perhaps you thought you might be bringing in when you signed him? He's
playing at in my opinion, an absolute Pro Bowl level. The stuff is obvious that you see on tape that everybody sees. His ability to challenge, play man, play zone, it doesn't matter. Just fight and scrap and claw and bring that dog mentality every single Sunday. What people don't see, though, is the human being too, like the way that he holds people accountable, the way that he gets these extra meetings and extra time with all the players, the way on the sideline. For me as a play caller, he's a gift because a lot of times, especially at this level, there's times where players will be they'll lean certain calls that they like better for whatever the reason, and he's that guy that consistently comes up to me, and it doesn't matter what you call, we're going to make it work, and there's great feeling about that when your players have that sort of mindset.
Are those kind of things, I'm sure you guys do your homework on these guys, but are those really, those aren't elements that you know about until he gets here, are they not, some of those things?
Well, I think with DJ, that was the advantage that we had. Obviously, we saw the skill of the player on tape. We could all evaluate that, and that was undeniable. But the fact that Coach Saleh had him in San Francisco and understood the character of the man and how he was built gave us an advantage in that way.
Is there anything to be said? You obviously have teams that are very talented, but a team like Detroit, that just seems to be red hot.
Yep.
They've won like 4 or 5. Is there something to that where you start rattling these off that almost becomes even more impressive than just talent alone?
Yeah, I think momentum is a real thing. I think confidence is a real thing, and they have both right now. So we're facing a very talented team that's feeling very good about themselves, which can be dangerous.
It seems like with the run defense, with a lot of the plays are up the middle, and it seems like, and I might have asked you this before, that you guys are obviously doing well on the defensive line, but you go with smaller, quicker guys. So it's almost like you live by the sword, die by the sword, where there's some plays, if they get locked up and they're 280 by a 320-pound guard, it can be a problem.
Yeah,
Is that a thing, I mean, that you get benefit of the smaller, quick guys, but sometimes they're outweighed by 40 pounds and.
I think that can go both ways. I think sometimes smaller guys can get moved. I would say our guys do a amazing job of not getting moved very much. Like you got a guy in, for example, Sheldon Rankins. He's not the biggest defensive tackle in the league, but he does not get budged. He understands leverage and hand use, and he knows how to play blocks, and he knows how to be the aggressor and all that stuff. So although we are smaller and quicker, I don't think that's necessarily a liability. Not for the guys that we have, at least.
They drafted a kid in Jameson. He obviously hasn't played too much, but is it almost more of a challenge preparing for him because you know he's eventually going to probably enjoy that breakout game, and you don't really know when it's going to come because there's not really that much film on him or how they're going to use him.
Right. Yeah. And you don't know what type of relationship he has with the quarterback. I think you just got to keep some stuff in your back pocket, have contingency plans for all of that. If anybody gets hot. If St. Brown gets hot, you know, you have to have an answer. So whenever that occurs, you're hoping it never does, but if it does, you have to have a plan for it, and we do.
Okay, a couple more?
Jamal Williams got in the end zone most times out of anybody in the league. How does a guy be that effective inside the red zone?
It's a combination of a committed scheme to run the ball. They're going to give him the ball a lot of times. One of the best O-lines that I've already spoke on that. And just the mindset that he has. You know, he's a guy that he's not an easy tackle. He doesn't go down with the first guy typically. He's got this mentality to finish runs, and it's a big reason he's having the success he's having.